Good day everyone and welcome to Zee Entertainment's Q2 FY21 earnings call. Hope you all are well and taking good care of yourselves during the pandemic. We have with us today our Managing Director and CEO Mr. Puneet Goenka along with our Chief Finance Officer Mr. Rohit Gupta. We will start with a brief statement from Mr. Goenka followed by a statement on operating and financial performance by Mr. Gupta. We will subsequently open the floor for Q&A. To ask question, please join Chorus Call bridge provided in the webcast invite. Before we begin the call, I would like to remind everyone that anything we say during the call that refers to our outlook for the future is a forward-looking statement and must be taken in conjunction of the risk that we face. Thank you and over to you.
Thank you, Bijal. Before we get into the details of the company's performance during the second quarter, let me share an overview of the strategic organization restructuring that we have recently initiated. The 4.0 version of Zee, built on the pillars of governance, granularity, growth, goodwill and gusto, will drive the internal transformation required to ensure that Zee continues to deliver exceptional performance in this rapidly evolving environment. The market is already witnessing an explosive growth in content consumption, and as per the estimates, content consumption in the genres of watch, read, listen and play will grow by as much as 3x in the near future. Along with this unprecedented growth, we are also seeing a structural shift in the industry like content personalization, integrated advertising solutions, technology and data-led innovations and disruptions, and increased competition. Winning in this landscape requires rewiring and realigning the organization around these challenges and emerging opportunities. The reset organizational structure is the first step in the transformation journey that we have embarked upon. The growth in content consumption presents an opportunity for Zee to build, scale and grow exponentially over the next few years. As I mentioned during our last interaction, my team and I are working with leading global consulting firm to sharpen these plans. Even as we finalize these plans, there are two design principles that we believe must underpin our transformation: simplicity and focus, backed by relentless execution. The recently announced changes reflect these principles of simplicity and focus. We have realigned the organization around the three core value chains: content creation, content monetization, and user acquisition. We believe this redesign of the organization around the core value chains, led by seasoned leaders who have successfully demonstrated their ability to build scale and drive growth, will see us achieve success in the years to come. We have shared a more detailed note on the revised organization design, and I'll be happy to address any questions that you might have at the end. Now let me share with you an update on subscription outstandings. We have collected from City Networks the receivables relating to revenue in the first half of financial year 21, but it has failed to pay subscription overdues in accordance with the payment plan agreed by it due to various challenges including COVID-19 and pressure to prioritize lender payments. Accordingly, the company has taken a provision of rupees 81.2 crores towards subscription receivables which were overdue. Further, on account of accelerated payment demands by some of the DESRA-backed lenders due to delay in restructuring by Citi and their failure to negotiate extended prepayment plans, the company has provided for DESRA liability of 97 crores as on 30th September 2020. The provisions have been made as a prudent measure and the company will take necessary steps to recover these dues. Dish TV, on the other hand, has been making payments in line with the plan submitted by them. As per the plan, Dish is paying every month's billing plus a part of its arrears. I would also like to highlight that Dish TV's financial position has significantly improved over the last 6 months, and consequently, its debt rating has been upgraded several notches to A4 from D in the month of February by CARE. As a result of the improved financial position, we expect Dish TV to accelerate payments, and arrears are likely to come down further by the end of the fiscal. At present, Dish TV's outstanding stands at rupees 4.98 billion compared to rupees 5.84 billion at the end of financial year 20. With this, I conclude my opening remarks. Now I hand over to Rohit, who will take you through the business and financial performance updates. Over to you, Rohit.
Thank you, Puneet. Let me now run you through the operating and financial highlights for the quarter. After the disruption faced in the first quarter, business returned to near normalcy in the second quarter. Shooting of original content resumed full scale in all markets by the end of July, with safety measures implemented across all locations. Other than shooting and some essential operations which require presence of people on the location or offices, as an organization, we largely continue to work from home. As semblance of normalcy is returning on ground, we are seeing the same getting reflected in viewership patterns as well. While TV viewership continues to be higher than pre-COVID times by about 15%, the shares of different genres has reverted back, with GEC regaining shares it had lost to news and movies during the lockdown. As original content returned on our channels across the markets, we saw a sharp bounce back in our viewership. Zee Network had viewership share of 19% during the quarter, led by recovery in Hindi, regionals and relaunch of 2 channels on DD Free Dish. There are a couple of markets where the performance is lagging, and our expectation and there is scope to push for higher viewership share. In Hindi, Marathi and Bengali markets, our teams are working hard to capture higher audience shares, and recently launched shows in these markets should help with that. Our performance in the South market has been fairly strong post-lockdown, with Telugu and Malayalam channels at their highest ever shares, and the movie channel portfolio also gaining traction. Now coming to ZEE5, global MEUs and DAUs for the month of September, as per our internal data analytics, were 54.7 million and 5.2 million respectively. ZEE5 released 25 original shows and movies. With return of TV content and original shows like Abhay, Mafia and Lal Bazaar, consumers spent an average of 152 minutes on ZEE5, a growth of 36% over quarter 1. The revenue and EBITDA loss of ZEE5 for the quarter was rupees 989 million and rupees 1.90 billion respectively. As the cinemas continued to be shut during the quarter, we launched Zeeplex, which is India's first pay-per-view platform for releasing new movies on television and OTT. We released 2 movies, Khali Pili and Ka Pai Rana Singham, on this platform, which received enthusiastic response from audiences. We will continue to experiment with such new formats, which makes access to our content easier for our audiences. Zee Music Company added over 7 million subscribers during the quarter and continues to be the second most subscribed Indian music channel on YouTube. There was a sharp jump in the label's video views on YouTube as it released new music albums during the quarter. Now coming to financial performance. The revenue for the quarter declined by 19%, a sharp improvement from 35% year-on-year decline that was seen in the last quarter. Advertising revenue during the quarter was down 26% compared to 66% degrowth in quarter 1. Each month has seen an improvement over the previous month, and we expect to reach last year levels in Q3, which will set us up nicely for driving growth in the next fiscal. During the quarter, most of our advertisers have seen a strong rebound in demand for their products, and the festive season has started on a good note. This should translate into healthy growth in ad revenues going forward. Domestic subscription saw a modest like-to-like growth of 2.3% year-on-year, which was mainly driven by the growth in ZEE5's subscription revenue. Due to the lingering uncertainty on NTO 2.0, our subscription growth this fiscal will be lesser than what we had anticipated at the beginning of the year. However, once this settles, we should go back to our expected subscription growth guidance. With original programming resuming across the network during the quarter, operating cost saw a quarter-on-quarter growth of 27%. However, it was still 7% lower compared to last year as the production in some of the markets started late. Growth in A&P cost is mainly because of two reasons. One, we spent on content comeback campaigns across markets for both TV and ZEE5. Second, the growth looks high as the base number was unusually low. EBITDA for the quarter, excluding the provisions for receivable, stood at 3.95 billion and the margin was 23%. The cash and treasury investments for the company was 14.5 billion as on September 30th, which includes 3.8 billion of bank balance, 2.9 billion of fixed deposits, 7.2 billion of mutual fund investments and NCDs worth 511 million. The transaction for the sale of overseas investments has been completed and the funds will be credited into our account in the next few days. Thank you, and over to you, Bijal.
Thank you, Rohit. We'll now proceed to Q&A session. I would request moderator to take the discussion forward. Over to you, Janice.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Requesting all the participants to please join the audio call to ask a question. Also requesting participants to please mute the webcast feed. The first question is from the line of Abneesh Roy from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Puneet. So thanks for the opportunity. My first question is on City Cable. So in the Q1 call, it was not highlighted that suddenly so much deterioration in City Cable will happen. Why I'm asking this is after that the lockdown has ended and we have seen fantastic recovery in all parts of the economy. So I wanted to understand that why it was not highlighted. And second, revenue recognition from City Cable. So way forward, what happens? Is there any more write-off, any more provisioning? And what happens to the revenue which you will get from City? If you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, thanks, Abneesh. On the first one, I'll ask Rohit to come in. But on the first one, on the second one, let me attempt. So the revenue as of now is being accounted for on a cash and carry basis. As you would have heard from my opening remarks itself, that April to September 2020, City has made all payments for the content delivered, and therefore it's on a cash and carry basis, and that's how it will continue going forward from here on as well. On the first part of not being highlighted in Q1, Rohit?
Yeah, hi Abneesh. So City, as we mentioned in our earlier calls as well, City had given us a payment plan which included two aspects. The first was payment for the current billing that will happen, and the second was payment for the old outstanding. While the payment for the current billing happened for the April to September quarter, we did not receive payments for the old outstanding, and various reasons were there. I mean, like Puneet highlighted, COVID and the pressure from their lenders as well. So in this quarter, as a matter of abundant caution, we have taken a provision of 81.2 crores for all the outstanding that we had from City Cable.
And any further provisioning likely in the coming quarters on City Cable or any other group company?
No, as we have already taken provision for the entire outstanding, and we are now going to work on cash and carry basis with City, so we do not expect any more write-offs.
Puneet, my second question is on 15% higher viewership than pre-COVID. So on a cost per thousand, are you getting benefit because now FMCG companies are seeing good growth and many other parts of the economy? Or because of the COVID uncertainty, cost per thousand viewership still that 15% growth now as we speak in Q3, that is not happening?
Yeah, Avnish, I don't think the pricing is yet come back to the pre-COVID levels. We have seen significant improvement in that happening, and I would see it normalizing in the quarter three and then expecting growth from quarter four onwards.
And so in terms of ad revenues, also you expect Q3 growth or you expect Q4 only because Q4 base anyway is soft.
Q3 base and Q4 base anyway is soft, but we expect that Q3 will only be able to maintain what we had achieved last year. Very, very insignificant moderate growth if at all possible. But Q4 certainly will have healthy growth over the last year's base.
My next question is on ZEE5. So you're seeing growth in revenue, but losses have gone up. So wanted to understand the experience of showing new movies on OTT. So you showed one new movie in Q1 and one more in Q2. So normally you are a low-cost content in terms of strategy. So seeing the experience in Q1, Q2 and the losses which have gone up quarter on quarter by 40-45 crores, what would be the thought process?
So, Avnish, firstly, just a minor correction. We are not a low-cost model. We are an efficient cost model business. And it's not just one film or the other that has that impact. This is content which is planned over a period of time. And as you know, a large part of Q1, a lot of the new productions had stalled, which have fructified in quarter two or quarter three or will happen over quarter four as well. So our guidance and this thing is on an annualized basis. This level of granularity on a quarterly basis will be difficult to do on this call, but you can take it up with Bijal offline certainly.
Sure. One last one. Proceeds for the foreign investments, what is the status?
As Rohit said in his ending remarks, that the transaction has been concluded and we are expecting funds any day now.
And the quantum?
The quantum is the residual, I think, is $24.5 million from what we had already received. The total was $30 million. We have received 4.5, so 25.5 is currently pending.
Okay. Okay, Puneet, thanks a lot. That's all from me. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jay Doshi from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good evening, and thanks for the opportunity. Puneet, my first question is if you could sort of elaborate on what is the rationale for reorganization and what are the changes in role of senior management and role for Rahul Johri, who joined.
So as I explained, Jay, that we have restructured the senior management around three key verticals. So content creation, content monetization, and subscriber acquisition or consumer acquisition. Mr. Johri is going to be responsible for the monetization part of it. That is the second vertical I talked about.
Understood. Second question is, we have noticed some leadership and viewership share loss in Marathi and Bangla, and particularly Marathi loss in Marathi is surprising. So what are the steps you are taking to arrest or to rather sort of recover viewership? And if you could sort of...
Content, Jay. So we have to work on our content pipeline, which obviously the current pipeline seems jaded to the viewers, and therefore they have chosen to go and consume more on competition. The good part is we have not lost reach on the channel as yet, so therefore we'll have to go and revamp the content there. As you will see in Bangla, we've already seen the recovery happening, and in the month of October itself, we have seen significant recovery already taking place. For Marathi also, I expect the next quarter or two, the recovery will come back.
Is the team stable, or have you is there any attrition you've seen in the team in those regional markets?
No, there is no attrition that one can talk about at the senior level or the mid level. There may have been attrition at the lower levels, but that's part and parcel of life.
Sure. And just final bookkeeping question on, so what are advances for content? The last update we had as of March 2020 was some rupees 4.2 billion. I'm talking about the advances that you had given last year. and some residual part was still there. So just an update whether those advances still remain as advances or you've got procured content against it.
Rohit?
Yeah. So, overall, our inventory advances and deposits have been coming down quarter on quarter. And if you see from the March quarter, where it was about 64 billion, it is now 60 billion. So, there is a reduction which is there. On the advances level, the overall advances as at March was 10.6 billion, which included the 4.2 billion you just spoke about, and that has come down to now 8.3 billion.
But has 4.2 billion come off, or that 4.2 billion is broadly at the same level?
So the 4.2 billion is right now at the same level. Actually, it has reduced in the month of October, and we expect that, you know, with the inventorization that we have planned, it will come down further by March, by the end of the fiscal.
Right. And I missed the opening remark you mentioned about receivables from Dish, and it has come down. If you could please repeat it once.
Yeah. So the receivables, Rohit?
Yeah, I'll mention. So Dish receivables have been down. It was about 584 crores in March 2020, and it is right now at a gross level at 498 crores. We had taken a provision of 37 crores, and if you exclude that, so overall it is about 460 crores net of provision.
Right. And should we expect at least 50 crore reduction in this number quarter to quarter, in line with what you've guided that, those receivables would come to normalized levels in 6 to 8 quarters? Is that a reasonable expectation to expect that this number, receivables from Dish, will come off every quarter by at least 50 crore?
Well, I don't want to put a number there, Jay, but it will certainly come off significantly before the end of the March fiscal itself, and you will see quarter on quarter we will make those declarations going forward.
That is helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivekanand from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. My question pertains to ZEE5's international operations. So, given that we have seen this sharp increase in viewership, is it due to additional distribution in some geographies where we were not present earlier, or is it entirely organic? And Punit, if you could throw some light on how you plan to monetize the international subscription market, given that we have a very big diaspora and a very strong brand internationally. Thank you.
Yeah. So of the viewership the growth that you have witnessed of almost 36%, a significant part of it has come from organic basis. A very little bit of it may be inorganic. The monetization strategy varies from market to market, as you would agree, because the ARPU levels, the consumption levels, etc., vary from market to market. We intend to monetize on both advertising and subscription for the international market, but it is currently being planned and will be executed over a period of time. Therefore, difficult to give you a number, but certainly this is what will start bringing the growth back in the international market, which has been stagnated over the last few years.
Okay, let me frame it a bit differently. Right now, ZEE5 contributes around 6-7% of your total top line, accounts for around 20% of your operating investments. Is this materially different for your international business? Is the revenue contribution of ZEE5 to your international business materially higher or lower, and investments?
Currently, it's much lower. It's not apples to apples comparison. I mean, the biggest territory, for example, United States, we have not even launched yet. So you can't compare it to the linear business that way.
All right. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Yogesh Kirve from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. So in the annual report for 2019-20, so there was a corporate guarantee mentioned to City Networks of about 116 crores. So the commitment to funding which is alluded to during the note in the note, for the current quarter is refer to the same thing, or this is an additional sort of an arrangement?
Rohit?
Yeah. So, what was mentioned in the annual report in the March accounts, there was, the DSRA liability, like you rightly said, of more than 100 crores. So, that is the amount which has now become 971 million, and we have taken, as a matter of, abundant caution, we have taken provision for that in this quarter.
Okay. So earlier it was off balance sheet, now it will be part of the balance sheet, right?
Yes, it will be a part of the balance sheet.
Yes, yes. And it has moved out of the contingent liability now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. Secondly, regarding this ZEE5, so regarding the MAUs and DAUs, so I don't know to what extent these are comparable to the numbers you have shared over the last 4-5 quarters. But certainly, face of it, the trend hasn't been very encouraging. So, in light of this, so is there any change of strategy as far as content is that we might consider, or we are going to stick with the path that we have decided for now?
So, what we are implementing currently, we have to first get that right itself. So, I think plans that we have made for ZEE5 itself are pretty large, and we will continue on those execution path. And of course, we reset for any mistakes or anything that happen as we go along. So, we will continuously keep evolving the strategy going forward. It's not just content, it's also a lot of distribution and partnerships that enable this trend line of growth on numbers. And our numbers we are sharing openly now, both from a P&L perspective as well as from a viewership perspective, and those are available openly and freely now from the investor relations team.
Right. So, sir, regarding our focus on the original show, so do we think we are on right track as far as the investment in the original shows are concerned, based on the assessment or the track or kind of experience we had over the last couple of quarters?
So, there is no right or wrong in the content business, let me tell you that. We get it wrong also, we get it right also. Some shows work for us, some shows don't work for us. And that's a matter of the nature of the business or the beast that we are in. It's a creative business and you don't get it right all the time. So, we have to course correct as we go along. And yes, original content, movies, these are the USP and the key drivers for the subscription income for the platform.
So at least, can we give us any guidance or indication regarding what should be the, at least directionally, are the losses, are they near the peak, or it would remain at this level in the coming years?
No, I don't think that anything has peaked. We are still investing heavily behind this business. We have always guided to you that despite all this investments, etc., we'll still, as a company overall, generate a healthy EBITDA margin. And year on year, we've been guiding for our EBITDA margin, and we'll continue to do the same.
And finally, Bijal, so I think there has been a restatement in the subscription revenue. So is it possible to share the international and the domestic component of the subscriptions? Either on this call or off the call, that would be helpful.
So, entire subscription revenue which has been reclassified is all relating to India business, and its entire amount is pertaining to India only.
Oh, so that's quite helpful. Thanks a lot and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Chevi Giri from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Hi. Puneet, a couple of questions on your corporate governance part. Can you give an update on the overall progress on that front? And secondly, specifically on your board reorganization. And thirdly, what's your likely run rate for movies production in the next 2 years in terms of spending compared to the trend of the last 2 years? And lastly, why is your ZEE5 revenue up by only 4% sequentially?
Okay. So, in terms of corporate governance, whatever we have guided for, Mr. Giri, we are continuing to stand to that. We are declaring all the data as was committed, including the balance sheet, etc. So, all those will be available to you. In terms of the board constitution, it's a constant process, the completion of which has been committed for by the end of the fiscal year, and we will be inducting more members onto the board going forward. We don't have an update on any names as of now, so nothing for me to share there. On the run rate for the movie production business, we expect to ramp that up very significantly in the coming years as soon as normalcy returns in the theatrical part of the value chain. Once theaters have opened up, we will be ramping up, and not just in Hindi, but even in regional languages. Quantums we can discuss offline. I don't have those numbers as of now, sitting here right now. And ZEE5 revenue was up only 4% because one of the telco deals came to an end and we did not renew post-August, and therefore we will have to make up that revenue through our B2C plans and not through the telco fixed fee model basis. That's the answer. Have I missed anything?
No, thanks, Puneet. I just want to do a quick follow-up on ZEE5. One, if you look back, what missteps or what positives have you under your belt compared to your outlook 2 years back? And secondly, on your relationship with telcos in general, have you evaluated if direct-to-consumer is a superior option compared with through a telco? Because there is always this thing about this Google tax and this 30% that you can probably avoid. And on the other hand, I don't know what the subscriber information that you get, how that compares with the direct route. So keeping all this in mind, how do you view the two options?
No, certainly we do evaluate every time a deal comes up for renewal or negotiation, and that's the time we do the trade-off on what is better for us to continue the relationship through a telco or to go direct B2C. In this situation, we have chosen to go B2C. I can't divulge more information than that. Therefore, that's a constant evaluation that we do every time these decisions need to be made. So it's a constant thing that we continue to do. Obviously, in terms of data and all, we get in terms of the telco deals, the data is restricted because of the secrecy laws, etc., which are now prevalent. In a B2C deal, the data that we get is far more rich and therefore much better for a monetization perspective. Yeah.
Right, understood. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, if you wish to ask a question, please press star then 1 on your touchtone telephone. The next question is from the line of Rohit Dakania from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. Just 2-3 quick ones from my side. Sorry to harp on this, but just to be clear, all liabilities from Citi in that sense has been written off because anyways we are on cash on carry now. Is that a fair statement to make, both from maybe a contingent side or also over the receivable side?
You're absolutely right on the receivable side. And these are provisions that have been made. We have not written off anything. We will make all endeavors to recover this money. What on the other account of DSRA Bank backed loans, there is still certain outstanding which is left. Rohit, you can confirm the numbers.
Yeah. So as we've also mentioned into our financials, the overall outstanding of these DSRA backed loans is now come down to 2059 million, and out of that the DSRA liability that Zeel had was 971 million. So we have taken, as like I said, as a matter of abundant caution, we have taken a provision of the DSRA liability that stands as at 30th September.
So it's fair to say about 108 crores is still left I'm saying just to understand from a worst case scenario, if you talk.
Yeah, these are these outstanding which are not due for the next few years, and therefore doesn't form part of the deferred liability.
But you are right in your point that you made.
Sure. Fair, Puneet. The other question I think is slightly related to a previous participant. So I think this year, I mean, loss run rate for ZEE5 is in that range about 700 odd sort of crores, give or take. So just wanted to understand, will this year be like the peak sort of loss year for ZEE5, or as you sort of articulated that overall margin level at the company would be pretty healthy, so absolute losses in ZEE5 could also increase given the scale of business could increase.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, right? We will evaluate what the opportunity is and what money we are willing to put on that after next year going forward. I mean, I don't think we have guided a number as you are specifically talking about, but certainly we would want to get back to our aspiration of being a highly profitable EBITDA margin earning company. But the investments in ZEE5 need to be made to protect the future of the company and the business. And those will be done. If they have any impact to the margin, we will certainly call it out to you before we take those decisions.
Sure. Thanks for that. And last one from my side, if you can sort of talk about on any update on the NTO 2.0. And also, if I'm not wrong, I mean, during Q1 call, you said that post Q2, you gave a better guidance on the domestic subscription growth. Your comments on these, please?
Bijal?
Yeah, so NTO 2.0 at this point of time there is really nothing which we can share, and the court has reserved the verdict and we are awaiting the verdict. As far as growth for the year is concerned, see what has happened is when we implemented NTO 1.0 we had complete blueprint that how we will take up our pricing and the product launch which will happen, and over a period of time how we will drive our subscription revenue. And in fact, what you saw over last year that in third and fourth quarter, we launched 4 new channels. So that was also part of it. Now, because of NTO 2.0, all the plans of rejigging our bouquet as well as taking up the pricing is on hold. And that is the reason why subscription revenue for this year would be impacted. On the domestic broadcast side, that said on the digital side our subscription revenue continue to grow at a healthy rate. So once this NTO 2.0 is done and probably let's say maybe a quarter of disruption, we should actually go back to healthy growth which we have been delivering over last several years.
So fair to say it's difficult to put a number this year.
FY21 would be, I mean, this year would be difficult in terms of growth because of NTO 2.0 effectively freezing the pricing. But going forward, what we have guided about low double digit to low teens is quite possible. But NTO 2.0 should be out of the way. I mean, it should have been implemented or it should be disposed of, whichever way. Under both the scenarios, we should be able to drive our growth significantly.
This is very helpful, Bijal. Thanks a lot, team, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Naval Seth from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. I have 2 questions. First on content. As you alluded earlier that you are refreshing content which might be dated or the subscriber or consumer is not liking. Any comments over here that were we slow in terms of refreshing our content or competition has become very aggressive? Because first we saw this trend in Hindi GEC and now in 2 regional markets and especially Marathi, which is your core market. So any comments here?
Yes, I mean, yes, you are right in part of it. These are, in fact, all of the markets are our core markets. None of the markets that we operate under are non-core to us. But certainly the new lineup that the competition has come with post the lockdown has refreshed the content for them, and the consumers have preferred that over the legacy content that we may have been serving. And as you know, there is never there's always an up and down in this kind of a business. So we are confident that we'll regain our viewership back.
Okay. Continuation to this, can you state the number of fresh content hours in these 2 markets, Marathi and Bengali, what is right now and what it was, say, pre-COVID?
I won't have the numbers readily, but I am sure you can take it offline with the investor relations team.
But just to, give you an overall idea, there has not been any meaningful reduction anywhere in terms of, say, Marathi or Bengali market, that we have not cut down our content meaningfully. There might be some optimization looking at advertising market, but nothing meaningful.
Sure. And lastly, any update on Sugarbox thought process, how we are tracking there? Last time it was stated that 4Q we will see some traction there. So any thoughts there?
It is still linked to the railway tender, as I had stated in my last meeting as well. So we are still awaiting an update on that from the RailTel.
Okay. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kunal Vora from BNP Paribas. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Just wanted to check on subscription. What is the remaining opportunity in analog subscription? Will the growth be driven by more subscribers, or do you expect ARPU increase to kick in, FY22 especially? And second, on other sales and services, this quarter was low. How should we look at it in second half? And you talked about the EBITDA margin reaching 30%. Are you on track to get FY22? That's it from my side.
Bijal?
Yeah, so on the subscription, see, on the domestic broadcast side, subscription opportunity is still at both the places. We have long way to go as far as television penetration itself, and most of the television penetration really really most of the people take up pay TV. So we have still 100 million homes who do not have TV. So from a longer term perspective, there is a very significant opportunity as far as more subscribers are concerned in domestic broadcast business. As well as pricing side, we think that the ARPUs are pretty low. As I said, that we had already planned our price increases in some of the market, and also it is not only about price, we are going to offer more products. So like in Tamil Nadu market, we have launched a movie channel. So it is also driven by more product launches. So overall our ARPU from the existing subscriber itself will grow. So that is as far as domestic broadcast is concerned. Similarly in digital, as you would agree that there is a very long runway for growth. Starting with subscription. So maybe for next few years, we would be primarily focused on driving number of subscription rather than on pricing. And once that market starts maturing, pricing would also be an opportunity, because again there the pricing is pretty competitive and with respect to the income levels it is still very low. So overall pricing as well as subscriber numbers, both the places we have a lot of headroom. So you asked 4 questions, but probably I forgot other 3. Can you repeat your questions?
Yeah, just wanted to get some sense on other sales and services, which was low for this quarter. How do we look at it in the second half?
So there is nothing which has changed in other sales and services. If you are comparing YOY, there are 2 things. One is in last year we had a movie called Article 15, which had syndication revenue, which had theatrical revenue, which was sitting in our other sales and services. And on top of that, there was Zee Music Company's revenue was classified as other sales and services, which from this quarter has been classified as subscription revenue, and that is the reason you are actually seeing a dip. Going forward, other sales and services revenue would depend on 2 things, which are the months where we are releasing big movies, and if there is any syndication income. So as you are aware, that theaters are right now closed, and this quarter we did not have any big movie for release, even on direct to digital. That is the reason why the sales and services, other services has gone down.
Sure. And lastly on EBITDA margins, considering the increased investments in OTT, are you still on track to get to 30% in fiscal 22?
So on EBITDA margin, what we have said that for the year, that every quarter we should see an improvement in margin, and that's where we are. Once FY22 is a normal year and we do not have any disruption maybe on the advertising side or subscription side, our margin trajectory should be returning to normal. That said, typically we guide about margin for the next year in 4th quarter. So we are right now just commencing our planning for the coming year, and probably in fourth quarter con call we'll give you a very clear cut number that what kind of margin we should look for. But overall there is really no change in margin trajectory at this point of time, save for the COVID related impact.
Sure, thanks. That's it from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jay Doshi from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead. A reminder to all participants present in this conference, if you have a question, please press star then 1 on your touchtone telephone. The next question is from the line of Alankar Garude from Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Puneet, my first question is on ZEE5. Now, when we had launched ZEE5 in February 2018, we had commented that typically the break-even would be in 3 to 5 years. And then I think after that we had commented it would be towards the later end of that time period, so closer to 5 years. So would you still maintain that ZEE5 is on track to achieve break-even by, say, FY23 end?
You know, it's a double-edged sword because we are forecasting so much in ahead. It's difficult to say what my assumptions were in 2018. Are those still valid? But certainly the revenue and the things are tracking very well. In terms of our strategies, we'll still focus that FY24 we exit the year with a break-even kind of a number. But overall, it may be delayed by about a year from the first forecast that we had given in 2018.
Understood. So basically, FY24 broadly is the year to look at for break-even.
Yeah. Again, I'm qualifying that by saying it's based on assumptions I'm making today for the next 4 years.
Fair enough, Puneet. And my second question, Puneet, is because of COVID and maybe some other reasons as well, as far as some monetization deals on infra or education which the promoters were looking at, we really haven't seen anything fructify. So does it mean that the possibility of the promoters ideally looking to add further stake in Zee is unlikely, at least over the medium term?
I have no clue to those deals, if at all, any. And I do not have any information or any plans on the promoters adding their stake on Zee. This call is strictly for the performance of Q2.
Okay. And one final question on the ad cap. I think earlier we had mentioned that if it is implemented, there won't be any impact. So would you still be maintaining that?
Absolutely, because we are very much in line with the ad caps which already exist in the country.
Fair enough, Puneet. Thanks and all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivekanand from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the follow-up opportunity. My question is on the restructuring that we have done. So we've spoken about the aggregating content creation and also streamlining the monetization of it. So right now, when we look at content creation, the respective businesses where the content is created, that's where the content creation responsibility sits. Is it? How is it meaningfully different from how you operate today? Puneet, can you talk about how the P&Ls will look like, the content budgets, and also your approach towards monetization? Thank you.
So what we have done is we are just replicating how we have succeeded in the regionalization of the company. And currently what was happening is that because you're making just a little bit of content compared to the quantum of content we make for TV, it was all centralized at Mumbai. Going forward, we believe that the right model is for it to be decentralized completely, and therefore the synergies can be brought in much more efficiently if it is decentralized at the end of where the content actually is getting created. and that's how we are just realigning the entire digital and the linear ecosystem of content creation, where earlier two independent teams were working. Now it's going to be a common team that's going to deliver content for both linear as well as the digital part. On the P&L side of the business, to all of you, I was responsible for P&L along with the CFO, Mr. Rohit Gupta. Nothing changes. We are both responsible to you.
Okay, and just a small follow-up. So, Puneet, thank you. That was helpful. Will this mean that you want to meaningfully step up the percentage of content that you create in-house versus sourcing externally? Is this very different from for your regional markets versus Hindi, the proportion of own content that you create?
I mean, I don't have an answer. There is no ABC answer that I can give you, a textbook's answer. But it's for those teams to derive based on the clustering of content taste that is required for each market, how that content will be created, whether it will be created in-house or outsourced to third parties will depend on who gets us the best idea. At the end of the day, I'm concerned with best content that can attract the maximum number of viewers or number of eyeballs, and that's how we take those decisions. I don't think we start from the fact saying that I want to produce 20% in-house, and that's how. So we don't start with those strategies. We start with, we want so many eyeballs, and now let's go find the best idea for this to be achieved. It's
all right. Thank you. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Thank you. The last question is from the line of Jay Doshi from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity again. My question is, there is a sharp about 30% increase in DAUs of ZEE5 and about 36% increase in engagement time per user. So overall volumes, viewership volumes on ZEE5 would have gone up significantly on a sequential basis. And at the same time, we've also seen improvement in advertising environment from 1Q to 2Q. So I'm a little surprised that, it has not translated into increase in revenues for ZEE5 from 1Q to 2Q. And normally these kind of, increase in volumes should ideally reflect in, sequential increase in revenue. So if you can sort of help us understand, what's going on there on monetization front.
Yeah, so number one is Puneet initially mentioned that we had a telco deal which we evaluated, and we decided that we should rather go for subscriber on our own. So that has an impact, and that has led to decline in the revenue in the subscription side. Now, as we have said so many times, that our revenues on the digital is significantly tilted in favor of subscription. So as you rightly pointed out, that we have seen significant increase in our viewership and consequently video views, and also consequently there is an increase in ad revenues out there. But the revenue in digital is significantly tilted in favor of advertising, in favor of subscription, and that is the reason why you are not seeing that impact translating into revenue. Also, it would be very difficult. See, we have given revenue numbers and cost number only for 2 quarters. So every quarter in a new business, you will always see something happening. Maybe at some point of time we are incurring more cost because we are launching a new product, which is what happened during the quarter. We had our 365 campaign going on, which led to higher cost, and similarly some contracts coming, some contracts not getting renewed. So it's a bit difficult to see absolutely linear growth from one quarter to another. Over a period of time, you will get to see the trajectory of growth is very healthy. I would say that just wait for a few more quarters and you will get a sense of clearly how fast ZEE5's revenue are growing.
That's helpful, Bijay. And any correlation between the increase in ad and publicity expense and higher losses for ZEE5? So, is that largely because of higher investments in ZEE5, or is it related to TV business?
No, it is. So it is relating to both the businesses. See, number one, we had our ad and publicity expenses was exceptionally low in Q2. Now that happens at some point of time when we do not have lot of launches, or we do not have a big show or anything. which we really need to promote. On top of that, we have actually seen a very significant increase in our advertising and publicity revenue in ZEE5 on account of the fact that we had two big campaigns which we were running. So after COVID, we had, bringing back the viewer for our TV shows and all, and then there was a campaign for 365 rupees pack which we had launched, and also there were 25 shows which were launched during the quarter, for there was publicity expenses relating to them also. So due to that, we have seen a significant increase in cost during the quarter, and that is also translating into higher losses at ZEE5.
That's helpful. Best wishes for the next quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as there are no further questions from the participants, I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Bijal Shah for closing comments.
Thank you everyone for your interest. If you have any more questions, please do reach out to Investor Relations team. Thank you, and please take care of yourself during this pandemic.
Thank you. On behalf of Zee Entertainment Enterprises Limited, that concludes this conference.